No.
Yeah, photos.
And then when we're ready to start on the auto camera, we should be good, right?
Yeah, it's talking about that too, it's feedback.
The shield turns down, they should restore something.
I don't know.
No audio.
So is it audio on or on?
Oh, it's me.
It's me.
Look like a grandpa the other day.
Yeah.
Hi. Hey, so nice to meet you in person. I know, this time I was like, I'm gonna find you.
I'm gonna take a picture of you, so don't.
For a second. Okay.
All right, good evening. We're going to call the meeting to order at 4:02. Please stand for the flag salute. Salute and pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Sorry about that. Our next agenda item is our educational partners update. We wanted to give a brief update. Just as a reminder to everyone, we do update all of the FICMAT processes that are happening and the places that we are in these steps on our website. So please be sure to check our website out for that information. We do update the information as it happens. All of the information that I'm sharing can be found on our website. We also do send out parent squares and other ways to communicate with families and staff so that everyone has the information. On June 27th, AB 121 was signed. Plumas is specifically covered under Section 98. This was the approval for our state apportionment, so that was approved. With the state apportionment passed, the board was notified on July 15th that under subdivision C, Section 98, the Plumas County Superintendent of Schools shall assume all legal rights, duties, and powers of the governing board of the district. Moving forward, I will run the PUSD board meetings. I will base my approval of future agenda items for the district based on recommendations provided by FICMAT and CBE as we continue to work together and alongside one another through this process. Moving forward, we will be separating out our district and county meetings. Our board will still sit as the county board for our county board meetings. Again, I would encourage everyone to make sure that they look at our website for information, as well as read through any parent square notifications, so that we can keep updated on our process and we will continue to communicate with the community. Bottom of attendance.
Administrator White.
Here. Alright. Alright, for approval of our PUSD agenda, I approve the PUSD agenda as presented. Is there any public comment on closed session items? Okay, seeing that there's no,
My only question is, I've been receiving the draft agendas, we've had like 3 or 4 of them. Is the agenda that we have out here is the final for today? So you really need to wait, till just before the meeting to get the final agenda?
Where did you get a
I'm
job?
kind of confused on that.
72 hours before.
So we're actually not supposed to communicate, sorry, public comment is just, it can't actually be questions. So you can write your public comment and then we can address it after the board meeting.
Okay.
Sorry about that. You can check.
Protocol, I agree with it.
Yeah. But I'd love to talk to you.
no public comment. We're going to move into closed session. At 4:06. close up. We're gonna reconvene at 5 o'clock. There was no action taken during closed session, there's nothing to report out of that. Next on our agenda is the staff. The personnel items.
Yeah, so requesting approval of the HR agenda as is.
I approve the PUSD. Oh, sorry, is there any public comment?
Am I covered?
Okay, no public comment on that, okay. I approve the PUSD Human Resources agenda items as presented. We'll be moving on to public input. No action or discussion shall be undertaken on any item not appearing on the posted agenda, except that members of the board of the Tumas Unified School District staff may briefly respond to statements, or as myself now, made or questions posed. This falls under Ed Code 54954.2. There is a 3-minute time limit for each person who addresses the governing board during public input. Public comment will be honored by participants attending in person. There is a time limit of 3 minutes with 20 minutes per topic. I didn't have any public comment. I didn't receive any. None. No public input. We'll be moving on to our next agenda item is amending the schedule of the remaining regular PUSD board meetings for the 25-26 school year. We have to amend our regular joint meetings, that's how they have been listed. Moving forward, we will be separating out the meetings with a county meeting and then a district meeting at 2 different times. So the recommendation is to approve the proposed amended schedule of the remaining regular PUSD board meetings for the remainder of the 25 school year. Any public comment?
Where do we find that amended schedule?
There is a copy of it in our public
We
comment.
can't make comments to public comment.
So it's public comment, not question, you can only make a statement, so if you have a question, guy, you'll have to just email them.
Or you can
Or we
ask
can
us
ask
afterwards.
Okay,
However, you can just say that it would be.
Any other public comment? As input in regards to that, it will be posted on our website and attached to our minutes.
thank you very much.
I approve the proposed amended schedule of the remaining regular PUSD board meetings for the 2025 as presented. Okay. Moving on to student achievement. This is for our quarterly reports on our Williams uniform complaints. I can report out that there were no uniform complaints filed with USD in our June quarterly report. Under leadership, Missy, our policy
Okay,
updates.
yeah, we have 2 policies this month. So policy 6145, extracurricular and co-curricular activities, this is an existing policy. But item number 4 is something that we've done in past practice but was not board policy. And so that is students failing to achieve a 2.0 grade point average may be allowed a probationary quarter to meet the district's co-curricular eligibility requirements before being declared ineligible. And then students who are matriculating from junior high to high school, they'll not be declared ineligible based on their grades received in 8th grade. So they get a fresh start when they start in high school, even though they're in a combined campus. Like I said, we've been doing this for years, but it's just time to actually make it board policy so that we're following our processes correctly. So we are seeking approval to add item number 4 for policy number 6145.
Any public comment in regards to that policy? Okay. I approve board policy 6145 with the addition of item 4 as recommended.
Thank you. The next one is a big one. So this is new board policy that was brought to us in April, but we needed more time. So this is based on, in 2024, AB 3216, and this is the Phone-Free Schools Act of California. So by July of 2026, we need to adopt a phone-free or limited phone policy throughout all of our campuses. And part of that required us to seek feedback from our educational partners. And so I sent out a survey. We had 286 responses from staff and parents. So you can do two options. One is a limited cell phone policy, and then the other one is a no phones in school policy. So 55% of our educational partners chose option number 2, to have phone-free schools. So a lot of this is coming due to research that's come out on, it's really becoming distracting for our teachers and our students. We're also experiencing a lot of like safety and security issues by students being able to take pictures or videos and then posting them on social media. We did a survey of our administrators, 14 out of 15 of them chose option number 2 as well. And so we are seeking approval of option number 2. And if that is approved, we'll have to come up with a process on how we share this with families, because bell to bell, it would be a phone-free school environment for our students.
Any public comment in regards to board policy 5131.8?
When would this go in effect, like the fiscal year 2026, or? I mean, you're gonna start and do a policy for,
He's answering your
Oh,
questions, this is
yeah, that's right, public comment.
I would be super happy to talk to you about that
that's
after.
right, I got it wrong.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask the same thing, I know they're gonna tell me.
I would just state that 100% of the feedback I've received in the Eastern Plymouth is phone-free. Support for phone-free. Same.
Here, here.
So we are seeking approval for option number 2 for 5131.8 new policy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I approve board policy 5131.8 with option 2 as recommended.
That means we will go phone free starting this school year.
For September,
Bell to bell.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry, what date did you say, would it be?
First when
This
school
school year
starts.
in September.
Okay,
Because it's adopted today, so now we have until the beginning of the school year. So.
okay.
Alright, thank you.
Yeah.
Moving on to our next agenda item, we have fiscal. We have a public hearing of the PUSD 2025-2026 revised budget. I will open the public hearing for the PUSD 25-26 revised budget at 5:08. Any comment?
Full support. Thanks.
I will close the public hearing for the PUSD 25-26 revised budget at 5:08. And next we have the proposed revised budget presentation.
Yes, so glad we got power back, because this all would have been verbal, wouldn't have been as fun. All right, so this is the informational item of the revised proposed budget for the 25-26 school year for Plymouth Unified School District. So, why are we here? We received a letter from CDE requesting some additional revisements to our adopted budget to be adopted by 7/25. They specifically outlined 3 changes they'd like to see. These changes were requested because of how our funding, our ending fund balance was looking in 24-25, and we had enough cash with about $10 million ending in current year. And with that happening, it was best for us to make the adjustments we could to be compliant in the current year, so that we could start next year off with a truer picture of where we were laying. So the main things they pointed out here are going to be the transfer of Fund 17, which was our special reserve fund. Okay, we had planned for that to happen in 24-25, but now it has happened before June 30th of 25-26. Okay. The second thing was to repay back oops, that's an edit, repay back Fund 35 and Fund 67, which were inter-district due fund transfers for our cash flow. What this means is it's like a temporary loan from other funds that we have to keep our cash flows afloat. They're normally required to be paid back, not normally, they are required to be paid back in 120 days. We did not meet that deadline, and so with the adjustments of the budget, we were able to get these repaid before June 30th of 2025. The second adjustment is adding balance sheet items to our cash flow report. And what balance sheet items does is it allows us to show anything that's happening, paying bills in current year, even though they end up in the books for prior year, it still affects our cash, right? Same thing with accruals. If we receive cash for a grant, let's say, we can report it in the prior year, but the cash is still actively received in this year. So what we did for this adjustment is we actually took a 3-year average of accruals that happened starting from 22-23 and did an average of what those 3 years looked like to allow it to give the best information we could, since we're not 100% sure what accruals actually will look like at this time as we finish up cleaning up the books. But we wanted it to be able to explain why we use these accrual numbers. So those are the 3 that were outlined in the CDE letter for our revised budget. The best part about the revised budget, and the reason why we did this, is the CDE is very kind to us, and allowing us to adjust our original budget, which means that our SACS forms and other reports will actually show this moving forward through each reporting period. If we would have waited for a 45-day revision, that's only informational. And if we would have waited for first interim, it would have been too late for us to make these adjustments, and we would have seen a discrepancy from our adopted in the system to actually what was happening. So by allowing us to have this extended period, that's why we are titling this the revised adopted budget, because it will be replacing the current adopted budget. People liked this last time, so I'm just gonna keep on bringing back some stuff, because every opportunity is an opportunity to learn. So we have our acronyms that are used often when we talk about budget and any financials, which is our ADA, which is our average daily attendance, which is how we are funded outside of our property taxes. Okay, so butts and seats, that's what we call that. COLA is our cost of living adjustment, which also is applied to our LCFF funding, and that is provided to us by the state each year. LCAP is our local control accountability plan. This allows local control from unrestricted dollars that is provided to us. It's important and is required to be adopted with our LCAP, which you already adopted. LCFF is the counterpart to the LCAP, where this is how we are able to take those unrestricted funds, and it's the calculator that tells us the grace grant adjustments, ADA, and any add-ons that are applied for the current year. Multi-year projection, or MYP, we are required to show current year expenditures and also 2 subsequent years. SACS forms, which you'll see in the budget packet itself, is used a lot. SACS forms is our standardized accounting code structure system. It's how every school in California is required to report their financials. This is actually amazing so that people can compare apples to oranges, right, in financial systems. We also have our UPC and our UPP. These are both the calculations of our high need populations of foster youth, homeless, and low income. This is important because it increases our supplemental and concentration grants that occur in our LCFF. It is the money we are required to show how we're spending in our LCAP. So they tie, boom, back together. It also is how we change our financial system, like financial allocations for like ELOP, which is a grant, and other grants also use these formulas to help populate allocations. Oh, and UTK, transitional kindergarten. It's new enough, I like to put it in there because it's used often. I'll try not to spend too much time here. Oh, I have it looked up. So SACS required, that's the software we're required to report, and that's what the majority of your budget packet is included in. Cash, that is actually the money we have in the bank, right? But budgets is our planned revenue and expenditures, all right? Actuals is when we pay a bill, and covered is when we're planning to pay a bill and we have a PO written for it. And then the 2 big distinctions here are also unrestricted and restricted funds. So unrestricted means that they are normally LCFF funds or property taxes that the district's allowed to create discretionary spending for. And then restricted means there are tied allowable expenses there, right? We don't get a choice in how we spend it outside of the restrictions that it's given to us. All right, we've been here before, but what's a part of adoption budget? We've got all of our forms for each fund that we have. We have our A form, which talks about our average daily attendance from prior year and current year. We have a cash flow form, our multi-year projection form, our standards and criteria review, which is taking all the forms and all the information we put into SACS, and it says, there is a discrepancy between this year and this year, and here's a threshold. Here's 0.5%, here's 0.5%, and if there is a discrepancy and you meet within that criteria, you have to explain why. That was some of the largest forms that are part of this reporting, but it's a great read. If you ever want to know why we have differences between each year. And then our certification form, which is required to be submitted to CDE, certifying that we had all of these components in our budget packet. And then a TRC is just saying that we're passing each requirement within SACS forms. So there's different criteria and standards, TRCs you can pass. You can pass with informational only, which means here's like a red flag, but we're not super, you can still approve it. We've passed with working informational with exception required. So you have to provide an explanation of why you can pass with this explanation. And then fatal. Fatal means you are not passing this, right? So why? You'll see in our TRCs that there are currently a fatal, which is because we have an ending negative fund balance, right? So we are certifying a negative budget. Reminder of where we are in our budget cycle, always important that we're working in current year, prior year, and future year, all in one year. The next time you'll see us is when we do unaudited actuals to finalize how 24-25 ended. So one thing I want to show you, I want to jump real fast. There's a part of the budget packet that I think is really important to review. And if there's one thing you can take from a budget packet, it's the narrative. And it's really elaborate and really comprehensive, and I think that it's in plain enough terms that you'll be able to understand it. So it's always going to be a part of the board packet. So I'm using the agenda right now so you can see this. When the agenda is posted, we're not required to put the attachments in until, is it 72 hours? 72 hours before the meeting. So if you don't see it there right away when the agenda is posted, it will be posted most likely by 4 p.m. on Sunday before our Wednesday board meetings. So here's the notice, but here's the actual packet itself. And you'll see the packet's very large. It is 171 pages, but I'm telling you, really, the beginning is the only thing that actually matters. If you want to understand our budget, pay attention to the budget packet. And I've made it really easy for you because I give you a table of contents that is touchable, that will take you to where you want to go. And if you ever feel like you've gone too far, you can touch the table of contents to go back. You'll go back to where you are. The whole thing does also have page numbers at the bottom that align with the table of contents. So the first huge section is our narrative. And I'm going to break it down in our presentation, each one of these parts, but I just really recommend reading here if you want to understand more about our fiscal situation. We talk about not only where we are now, but we also talk about just general things like understanding the components of a budget and simple things like that, and then specific things to each reporting period. So for each reporting period, see, it's a long narrative, but I really swear it's a good read. So each section is either by revenue or expenditure. And something I felt that was helpful with the unique situation we're in, we provide a section of the comparison from 24-25. We have 3 comparisons that can be put there, which is the third interim projection, which was the third interim report that we sent out that were required to use when we had negative certification. We had the original adopted estimated actuals, which was the one that we adopted previously, and then we have our revised estimated actuals. There aren't huge changes between revised and adopted because that was not our goal here. Our goal was to hit 3 of those CDE requirements and then also adding in vacancies. And I'm going to explain that in a minute. But if there are any discrepancies, it was just because it was simple enough to put in there. We might as well make it as accurate as possible. So if there was a revenue or expenditure change that was huge, it would be reflected here. The second section is the difference between the 25-26 adopted and what's being proposed now as the revised. All right. Again, some sections you'll see no differences, but if there is a difference, it will be called out in these sections. And then there's narratives above each one of those, or underneath each one. So you want to understand what the difference is? There's a whole paragraph that will explain what the difference is between each one of those components. And that happens for revenues and expenditures. So I'll kind of break that down a little bit more for you. The final sections that I believe are important, a part of the narrative, see, long, is talking about basic aid. We are a basic aid school, which means we're majorly funded from property taxes. I provide a table here that talks about the depth of basic aid we're in. So this image here shows that as enrollment declines, we go deeper and deeper into basic aid, which means that if there's any benefits to LCFF, we get more limited access to those, right? Because the higher we get into basic aid, we're just mostly funded out of property taxes, which means we get less LCFF money. We also talk about the year-end closing. Year-end closing is important. What I'm proposing in estimated actuals is estimated, right? We have until October 15th to close the books with unaudited actuals. So I will tell you, whatever's estimated right now is not how it's gonna be, right? We're confirming accruals, we're confirming any APs that are outstanding, we're confirming inventory, which were all of our findings from prior years for our audits. We're gonna make sure that we're hitting each one of those notes, and so we get to finish 24-25, we get to start 25-26 with a real clean slate moving forward. All right, now I'll go back to my presentation because I actually have these things outlined here. Also, what am I doing on time? Okay. All right, so we break down there is no difference between the adopted and the revised LCFF revenue projections. There are small federal projections that are changing here. This was just adjustments to how things ended, and I got that revenue, so I decided to put the changes in the adoption as they were received. We also had originally put a CTE grant that was in here under federal revenue, but it actually didn't come in time, so I moved it out, and so it will be put into 25-26. State revenues, again, small adjustments here. We had an increase to our ELOP grant, and that was finalized, so I was able to put it into the change of projections. And then the same thing for the workability. No changes to local revenue. All right, so we did have one of the things outside of the three that were set by CDE, we do have one adjustment that's changing, is that we had to include vacancies that have not been removed by board authority yet. So while the list I was originally given for vacancies and position control, there were some vacancies, there are some in the system that have been board approved that have not been taken out. So we are required to show those in our budget until the official action's been taken to remove the FTE. So you'll see that this is the fourth big impact to our revised budget. Okay, so what I did here is I outlined what those vacancies look like. These have been, some of them have been vacant for many years. We're not trying to hire for them, but they do exist in our position control. So once we make adjustments and we right size, they will either be closed out or flown. So this did show up of about $3.3 million difference in our certificated, and similarly about $2.6 million in our classified. Again, some of these have been sitting for a while, but we do have to have board action to remove them. Due to the increase, it also means benefits increase because it's all projected for the same thing, so we'll see about 2.3% increase in the benefits. Very few adjustments were made to all other expenditures because, again, the biggest thing we were working on were vacancies and then the interfund transferring. So if there was anything that I knew that I could add in here, it happened. And so you'll see that services increased by $433,000. This is the cost of the state receivership. We are required to pay for a comprehensive review of the 152 markers for getting out of receivership. We also have some other fiscal supports that are required here. They go in the 5,800 because they're services that we're contracting for. Okay, the biggest one, moving that Fund 17 from 25-26 to 23-24. Okay, so you'll see here that now the revised estimated shows the fund transfer in, and it's being removed from the 25-26. You'll also see that we made that board action to create Fund 13, which is for food service. It used to be a contribution, and we could just do it whenever we wanted. Now we have to have board action, and it needs to be an inter-fund transfer. Also, due to the increase of vacancies, we needed to increase these interfund transfers to support the additional vacancy cost between Fund 13 and Fund 11, which is our adult education. So that's what these two additional interfund transfers are being requested to. That's why it's required to have Fund 13, because it calls out that encroachment. Okay, the last thing is our additional contribution. Again, those vacancies, increased expenditures. Increased expenditures means we need to contribute to programs. We can see consistently that in the prior year, we had a Title I contribution because we are not sustaining within our Title I program. We also have a special education contribution, which is normal, but it will increase because of the vacancies. We have a 3% requirement for our ongoing and major maintenance fund. That is a requirement by the state to provide a 3% of all expenditures into a contribution. And now you'll see we're removing the food service because it's not a contribution anymore, it's an interfund transfer. And then other local restricted funds, we have, it's called the 90/10s. If we get a local grant or local funding from something, we have to put it as restricted because we can't just use it however we want. To maintain some of these programs, I had originally in third interim projected that we were going to make a contribution to keep these programs as is. Since then, we've been able to finalize them and do other things, so you'll see that from third interim, they've actually been removed from the contributions. They should really be self-sustaining. I know, sorry, long. Reserve economic, we are required to hit a 3% reserve for economic uncertainty. What this means is that while we're already $7 million negative in our fund balance, that actually does not mean that we're compliant. We have to get back the additional $1.3 million to hit that 3% required reserve. So we are not only $7.4 million in the negative fund balance, you'll see in all of our projections, it's actually 8.7 to be able to hit that 3% reserve. So that has been brought out for the next 2 years as well. It's about 1.3 for each year, which increases our negative ending fund balance. Multi-year projections, we're required to have assumptions. These are just some assumptions that we use for our multi-year projection, which are outlined greatly in the budget packet. I just wanted to give you a quick outlay here of our multi-year, which is current year and 2 subsequent years. It looks like our revenues were coming in slightly decreasing in 26, 27, and then re-increasing in 27, 28. And then our expenditures, you'll see increase each year. And then right here at the very bottom, this is what matters, is our negative fund balance for each year. And you can see that right above it is that percentage I was talking about that's gonna be required to make it to that 3%. So that's what's above it. Cash flow, we're required to show cash flow. With all of these adjustments, originally we had projected to be into November, right? But paying back all those funds and all the accruals, we're looking like we're back to almost similar to where the third interim was, which is September. So it looks like we'll be about $2 million negative in the end of September. In the budget packet, I do explain that we will be most likely doing our first drawdown of the advance apportionment from the state of about $1.5 million. This allows us to sustain cash flow for the remainder of the year as we get our property taxes in December and in April. Yes, which I just explained. And that would be our revised adopted budget for 25-26.
Thank you, Stephanie. So this was for information. The 25-26 revised budget will return for approval on July 23rd, 2025 at our special board meeting. Is there any public comment in regards to this revised budget? Okay. All right, lastly on our list, we have our consent items. I approve consent items A, B, C, and D. Oh, sorry. Consent items, which include minutes from the board meeting, our PUSD check registers of the month for June 2025, C, our service contracts, and D, our donations. Is there any public comment with our consent items? Okay. I approve consent items A, B, C, and D as presented. Are there any future agenda items? I will adjourn the PUSD special governing board meeting at 5:30.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm gonna call the PCOE special governing board meeting to order, and then we'll do the flag salute. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. Klein.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Harrison.
Here.
Craig.
Well, entertain a motion to approve PCOE agenda.
Move to approve.
Second. First and second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any public input? Scott, Lori?
No.
Okay. Amended schedule of remaining regular PCOE board meetings. Is that what you said before, Amber?
Yes, so we're seeking approval for the proposed amended schedule of remaining PCO board meetings since we have to separate out the two.
Perfect. And so PCOE will take place first, and then we'll go on to PS.
It looks like you have a start time of 4:30 all the way down for the rest of the year.
Yes,
Wonderful. You want a motion to approve that, correct?
yes.
I entertain a motion for approval.
Make a motion to approve, just amended schedule meetings.
I'll second.
First and second, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, student achievement, Andrea, go ahead.
Yes, this is for, again, for our quarterly reports for the Williams uniform complaints. We have no complaints to report for the June quarterly report.
All right. Moving on, PCOE resolution 252601, adopting and approving the Joint Powers Authority Agreement and joining Government Financial Services Joint Powers Authority. Andrea, you want to walk us through that?
Yeah, our recommendation, this came to us from FICMAT as another piece to help us as we work through this process and to really help set up our budget and business areas as we start addressing different areas moving forward. Adopting and approving this allows the joining Government Financial Services Joint Powers Authority to help with those things. And their process for starting that contract with them is doing it through a resolution that is approved by the board.
Their specialties are in debt. So they have already worked with schools who have taken a advanced apportionment from the state, and also other long-term debt solutions. So they're gonna be a huge asset to us and their expertise. And a JPA allows them to be not just a contractor, they really care, like an employee at the door down from us. I mean, it's a collective group that is made just for school finance.
Okay.
I'll move to approve as submitted.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion?
I think the only, so as I'm reading it, it's being the Joint Powers Authority Agreement, so you were saying that this organization is gonna be very beneficial on the PUSD side. So,
No,
okay, but this agreement is allowing them to also work with our PCOE side because it's already happening on the PUSD side. That's what I wanted to make sure I was understanding correctly.
Yeah, so thinking about remembering that the original setup of a county office is the oversight of a district.
Right.
So they're here to guide us in the oversight of the district, even though we're the same employees. It's to help us guide us in the right direction, yeah.
Is there cost on PCOE side
No, not this part.
at this time? So
There's a chance we might bill it back because depending on the majority of the fiscal assistance, but it's a membership fee at this time.
And that we already are paying?
No, we have to go through the resolution. And then their board has to approve us as well joining.
It's about $5,000.
Yeah, annually. I think it is significantly worth it. Absolutely. They come highly recommended. They're gonna be a great part of the team.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call.
Klein.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Harrison.
Aye.
Krim.
All right, well, entertain a motion to approve the consent items. We have minutes from the special board meeting that took place on 4/28, 5/12, 6/18, 6/25, and 6/26. Or do you know if everybody was present for each of those? We might have some abstentions. Yeah. I believe I was present for everything. But 6/25.
I was out the 28th. The other three of us approved. So if everybody else was at the rest of them, I just have to abstain from the 28th. I got kicked out. Let me go back. So I'll move to approve the minutes of the April 28, 25 special board meeting.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
For 5/12/2025?
We'll move to approve.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
For 6/18/2025?
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
For 6/25/25?
Move to approve. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And 6/26?
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, any service contracts with this agenda? Go ahead.
we do have service contracts with the agenda. Do we need to go through each of them with you or?
I didn't have any questions, but
You'll see the Cal MFCS grant come back to you next month. This is an initial contract, but we are going to cover the cost of their liability insurance, and so we'll revise that contract and just bring it back for information only next month, so you'll see it twice.
Can you give us just a little more information about the e-therapy money that came in? So it's basically, it's not in person, right? It's online? Who's it available to?
Tier 2 and Tier 3 students who qualify for therapy services who do not have an in-person therapist available on their campus. So we're down to 2 in-person therapists, one in Quincy and both are in Quincy actually, Quincy High and the elementary schools, and then we do have in-person for special education services up in Chester, and the rest of our students are now on e-therapy who need it.
And in each school, they have a designated classroom or the nurse's office, or where does this happen?
So like when you walk into CRC, you'll see a tent, because we don't have anyone to manage that, right? So, and then at some school sites, they have their student services coordinators who manage that, or our wellness coaches. So it is the principal's, responsibility to figure out a way to provide those services to the students with limited to no funding.
If some of the children are in foster care, that are in the schools that are requiring that, does that portion of the county pick up and help pay for that? No,
Not for services they're receiving on campus, it's a different whole setup.
They can
Foster care has their own whole,
Yeah, they can go through,
they what?
they can go through the Loomis County.
yeah.
Okay,
And so for most of that would be considered a tier 3 need because they have mental health needs but also qualify for foster and homeless youth services. And so we have Wendy James who coordinates that and she would help us determine where they go. What the e-therapy that we provide is more mild to moderate care where the county provides tier 3 moderate to severe care.
okay.
That's all I had, otherwise I move to approve as submitted.
And a second?
I'll second
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any future agenda items? All right. From my perspective. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.